It's over, Antifa! I have the high ground! You underestimate my power and political influence. Don't try it! How dare you attack me? I was just peacefully protesting. Peacefully protesting? You tried to burn down a federal building to the ground. You said you were going to build a better city, not destroy it. Bring peace to the city of Portland, not leave it in darkness. Fight against police brutality with peace and justice. But all you are doing is creating havoc, and now more people are standing against you and other organizations like yours. F the police! We're trying to protect you and your citizens. We love you, and we want what is best for you. We have no other choice. We must protect the city of Portland. We need law and order in this country, and you are preventing that. Now get in this unmarked ship, and let's go. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Kyle Dockery with the Dockery Docket. We are here with our very 35th episode of the Dockery Docket. I'm excited to be here, and I hope that you are excited to be here as well. Mob Wars. Mob Wars is going to be a new series on this channel for at least the next 3 weeks, and the premise for these episodes is to talk about different cities that have decided to defund their police departments and are now experiencing situations like crime spiking, including murder and gun violence, and also riots, which people are calling peaceful protests, but we'll talk about that later on. Now, this violence has been happening mostly in Democratic cities, more like 99% of Democratic cities. So to make sure that we cover them all, we're going to go over them one by one for the next 3 weeks. This week will be Portland, next week will be New York, and finally, we will talk about Chicago. And this may flip, like next week may be Chicago, then the following week it'll be New York, because I have control of that and I can dictate what I want to do and what I don't want to do. I hope I have that power. I think I do. However, I really hope that you enjoy this series, and if you do, make sure to hit that like button. And also make sure that you share this video on all your social media platforms, so then we can get more people to watch the video and like the video, and it also really helps me with the whole YouTube and stuff like that. So, let's get started by talking about what is happening in the city of Portland, as there is there's a lot of stuff going on, and don't just take my word for it. Acting Director of Homeland Security, Chad Wolf, said in a statement on July 16th that the city of Portland has been under siege for 58 days by a violent mob, while local political leaders refuse to restore order to protect their city. Each night, lawless anarchists destroy and desecrate property, including the federal courthouse, and attack the brave law enforcement officers protecting it. So this violence has risen straight from the protests of the killing of George Floyd back in May. And this has led to a surge of violence, including vandalism of property, or taking property like we saw in Chaz. That episode was absolutely fantastic. So we can see that these people are upset. These people are angry about the death of George Floyd, so they're protesting, and they are continuously protesting. And when the lights go down, more than likely, there is a lot of violence that is happening, and the police can't do anything about it. Along with this, they are spray painting different buildings, they're lighting buildings on fire, and this has cost the city thousands to millions of dollars. According to Oregon Live, Portland police and the county sheriff's deputies have filed court documents that give a day-to-day account of these protest response over the last 6 weeks, including dozens of videos that show violence downtown, photos of broken windows to courthouses and businesses, and a list of more than 100 fires set. They estimate that repair costs to public buildings approach $30,000 so far, and $4.8 million in business damage. That is insane. That is an insane amount of money from these protesters, which, I mean, I don't even know if you can call them protesters because they're absolutely destroying the city. These people are causing all this damage, all this carnage, and no one can do anything about it. Along with this, it is not just these protesters that are causing violence and property damage, as the city has experienced a deep spike in shootings and homicides just in the month of July. It was reported that less than 2 weeks into July, police have responded to 42 shootings, which can include any incident in which gunshots are fired, not just to those that are injured or killed. Last year, the average month in Portland saw about 32 shootings, and none more than 40. The sad fact of the matter is that crime is rising, and this is not a good thing for the average citizen that are just at home relaxing. They want to get back to their normal lives. They're trying to prevent themselves from getting COVID, and they're stressed out because they keep hearing gunshots firing all the time. And they aren't even a part of these different protests or rallies that are going on. So what has the city done to help these average citizens that are dealing with this violent mob? Well, they're helping by defunding the police force. The Portland City Council passed a budget last week cutting at least $15 million from the police bureau, according to local news outlets, following weeks of protests, cries to defund the police. The budget for the upcoming fiscal year also includes $4.8 million in funding for a Portland Street Response, a program proposed as an alternative to policing. So instead of having police, they're going to bring out these street response. And it really seems like this street response is doing a very, very good job so far, because shootings have continued to rise in the city, and it's absolutely horrible. It's absolutely horrific what is going on in Portland. So, we have a problem. Crime and shootings are going up, and these peaceful protests are becoming more and more violent by the day. The governor of Oregon and the mayor of Portland have continued to lie and say that these protests are 100% peaceful. Nothing wrong is going on in the protests. This is not true, because peaceful protesters do not try to burn down federal courthouses, or jails, or headquarters of a local police union, or hurl rocks and bottles at cops, night after night for weeks on end, and the police can do nothing about it. They are helpless. They need help. They are overwhelmed. So Donald Trump is in Washington, D.C., and he's watching all of this stuff happen, and he's thinking, how on earth are we going to stop this? This is absolutely crazy. And so Trump decides that he is going to do something about it, and so he calls in the troops. As the U.S. and Customs and Border Protection spokeswoman said on Friday, agents have been deployed to Portland to support a newly launched U.S. Department of Homeland Security unit tasked with enforcing last month's executive order from Republican President Donald Trump to protect federal monuments and buildings. Along with this, immigration and customs enforcement officers are helping DHS Federal Protection Service, which includes security for federal buildings, ICE said. So Donald Trump has called in these different troops to help out the police who are already on Portland's ground, to help them out and to make sure that everything is peaceful and that things can get back to normal in Portland, so then we can have a good, happy, healthy city again. So we can see that these protesters are causing violence, and they are trying to destroy different federal buildings. So in response to this, we send in federal troops to stop them so these people can't destroy important buildings. Because in these different federal buildings, there may be important documents like cases and evidence. And if they were burned, the cases may be dropped. So these federal agents are coming up to people that are dressed in full riot gear, grabbing them and arresting them. Now, this may seem like justice and that we are finally seeing someone do something for the last 2-month-long struggle, but to the left, this is straight up fascism by Trump. This is the worst thing ever. How dare he do this? This is just absolutely terrible. They see these police officers as evil, unidentified people coming to innocent protesters, kidnapping them in unmarked cars and taking them away, never to be seen again. As recently, Nancy Pelosi has come out and posted on Twitter that unidentified stormtroopers, which is related to Evil Mustache Man's troops that he used, unmarked cars, kidnapping protesters and causing severe injuries in response to graffiti. Now, hold on, Nancy. Please, hold on. This is not about graffiti. These people are trying to burn down federal buildings. They are causing violence. They are using high-grade firecrackers to hit at police. They're throwing rocks. They're throwing bottles at police. So, of course, we're going to go in and arrest them because they're causing violence. And this is just absolutely not true because they are trying to protect federal buildings from being burned down by this mob. If the feds were not there, then the whole city would be just a pile of rubble, because the governor and mayors are saying the exact same thing as Nancy Pelosi. As the governor of Oregon stated, "This is a democracy, not a dictatorship. We cannot have a secret police abducting people in unmarked vehicles. I can't believe I have to say this to the President of the United States." And the mayor who actually went into the protests, and he was actually with the protesters and tried to be all friendly, buddy-buddy with them while they were screaming at him, calling him a fascist, telling him to resign over the fact that he doesn't want to 100% completely get rid of the police department. He has also said that he wants the feds out. He said, "We didn't want them. We didn't ask for them. They're not trained for what they're being asked to do, and we want them to leave." So if we had it Nancy Pelosi's way, or we had it the governor's way, or the mayor's way, then the city of Portland and federal buildings would all be burned to the ground. Violence would continue to rise as they believe that all these protests are 100% peaceful, and this is not true. The feds are not arresting peaceful protesters. They are arresting violent rioters. There is a very, very clear distinction between the two. Now, I have to make sure that I'm very, very clear on something. I have to clear something up. Most of what these leftists are saying about these, quote, stormtroopers is false. But there's some truth in this, as agents are using unmarked vehicles, because if they are in police cars, the mob would probably try to torch them and destroy the cars and the people inside. And police use unidentified cars all the time. You see a car that looks like a police car and you get nervous. There are so many different police cars out there that are hidden for different jobs. You may think that it's wrong, but police officers do this all the time. However, people being put in unmarked vehicles is the only truth in this entire story narrative that the left is trying to tell. And everything else is false. The left has claimed that these officers are not identified, but they are identified, as on their chest there is in big yellow letters, police. And yes, they do have their badge numbers on their uniforms, but they don't put their names on their coats or on their suit. The protesters will try to dox them. So the people should know that they are police because they see them in their camo gear with police written right on their chest. They should know them. And they see their badge number is right there. They are not secret police or stormtroopers. They are federal officers protecting federal buildings. Also, another thing that is untrue is that these people are being kidnapped. No, these people are being detained because they are doing something that is illegal or did something illegal in the past. Chad Wolf, the acting Secretary for Homeland Security, stated, "We are only targeting and arresting those who had been identified as committing criminal acts like any law enforcement agency does." So these troops will see a man, let's say for example a man, totally smash a window in a federal building, and then spray paint something, and then throw a rock at a police officer, and then he runs away. The federal officers identify him by what he's wearing or something like that, or by his face, and later on they find him. So they go and they detain him. They arrest him, put him in the car, and take him away. That's what they do for all these people because it's an illegal act to attack a federal officer and also a federal building, okay? Does that make sense? These are the people that they are targeting. Not the peaceful protesters, but the rioters who are trying to absolutely destroy things. They're causing violence. They're throwing rocks. As I already explained, they're doing bad things. So the peaceful protesters should want these people taken away. They should want these people to go away because they're totally ruining the whole idea of this peaceful protest because they're causing violence. So there was one story of a man who got arrested or was detained by these officers, and he stated that he was detained for 90 minutes. The police asked him if he could answer any questions. The man said, "No, without my lawyer," and so they just let him go back out into the street. No jail time, no injuries, or no beatings, and no kidnapping, okay? No kidnapping happened here. Along with this, there's another narrative that the left is trying to portray, and that is that these federal officers are doing something illegal, and that they are breaking the law by arresting these people that are causing all sorts of violence. And some cities are wanting these federal officers sued for their actions. However, everything that the officers are doing is 100% legal, as they are acting under 40 U.S. Code 1315, as it says that the DHS secretary shall protect the buildings, grounds, and properties that are owned, occupied, or secured by the federal government, including any agency instrumentally or wholly owned or mixed ownership corporations thereof, and the persons on the property. Along with this, it says, officers protecting the property may conduct investigations on and off the property in question of offenses that may have been committed against property owned or occupied by federal government or persons on the property. So a protester can throw a Molotov cocktail into a federal building or punch a federal officer and then run away, but they are identified, and then the police find them and detain them. And that is a part of their investigation, aka not illegal. So we can see from all this that these federal troops are following the law, and what they are doing is trying to prevent more violence from happening in the city. They are trying to prevent violence from happening in the city. They are trying to stop riots and violent protests, because that's what these are. They are not peaceful protests, they are violent, and people are getting hurt. So seeing all of this, seeing the fire, seeing all the violence, why is it that people on the left, like Nancy Pelosi, the governor and mayor of Oregon, support these officers when all they are trying to do is help? And it is funny because a lot of the media, the leftist media, especially the leftist media, will say things like, oh, well, the protest was mostly peaceful. It was a mostly peaceful protest while there are fireworks flying over the reporter's head. I mean, this argument is so stupid. I mean, World War I was mostly peaceful until the bullets started flying. I mean, there were moments where it was peaceful. Jeffrey Dahmer was mostly peaceful when he wasn't trying to kill people. Like, this argument cannot be used in the courtroom. Let's say OJ's attorney said, well, Judge, the night was mostly peaceful before the murder, and the judge is like, oh, well, then he's innocent. It is ridiculous, and the media is trying so hard to push this under the rug and claim that nothing is happening in Portland. Don't look at Portland. Nothing's going on here. Everyone stay back. Nothing's happening. Go focus on something else. Portland isn't the only city that the media and the leftists are trying to say is 100% peaceful and everything's going great, and they're trying to push the violence under the rug, as there are many other cities in the United States that have been dealing with all this insurgence of violence. But we will have to talk about that in the next 2 weeks. So make sure to hit the subscribe button, and make sure you share the video, and make sure you do everything that a good listener does. And until next week, on Tuesday at noonish, like my mom always says, be good, be kind, be loving. Goodbye.